Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Radio Toons podcast.
The Avengers Spoil Fest.
Oh yeah, this is the one everyone's been waiting for. I know you have. I know you've been waiting for it.
Everybody's been waiting for it.
Yeah, I see your faces right now. You're smiling. You saw the title of the episode. You know what's going down.
Yeah. So we should probably first preface this with what we haven't seen going into this movie, because personally, I haven't watched Iron Man 3. I haven't watched.
Does that really matter?
Well, just so they know, like, if we say something's like, well, that's explained in that
I haven't
movie.
seen Iron Man 3 either. We haven't seen Black Panther.
Nope, we haven't seen 2 of the last Thors, so Ragnarok and Dark World.
Right. And then, so this one starts off with Thor, like, all
Ragnarok,
fucked up from Ragnarok, and we were just like, okay, I guess that's just how he is now.
Exactly. So that's some of the stuff that we missed, because I expected that again, this is all spoiler fest, so if you haven't watched the movie, stop, go watch the movie, and come back, because we're going to be just talking straight through the movie. At the beginning of the movie, one guy dies, and it's really significant, and you feel it, but like the one died with the dreadlocks. He's part of Thor's team, and he sends Hulk back to Earth. When he dies, I was like, I don't know who that is, but it's somebody important, because Thor's like, oh my god.
Okay, so right off the bat, Ernie, what did you like it? Let's say, did you like it?
I loved it. I definitely loved it, but that's not to say that I didn't have problems with certain parts.
I thought it was good, and I don't know why I couldn't really see why people loved it. But that's not to say it's not a great movie. I'm sure it is. I think there was parts that I couldn't really appreciate, because there was. I think more or less I was just being like a fanboy, and I wanted a lot more action. You know what I'm saying? This movie is a little more. It's got like a more somber tone.
Yes.
And it's really different from the other Avengers films, which is why I think people actually do like it more than the other ones. But me, I guess I'm just used to seeing explosions and stuff.
I will say it was more somber, but if you like, during the movie, there was a lot of sad parts. But all of it, like, every so often, they'd sprinkle in a little humor that would make you be like, it's sad, but we're here to have fun.
Yeah, it's still about superheroes and all that stuff.
Because like one of the funny things was that Thor, at some point, Thor and Rocket are like buddying up in this separate team, and the running gag is that he calls him he calls him Rabbit. Mr. Rabbit Man. That's
a running gag throughout the Marvel universe, right? Nobody seems to know that he's a raccoon.
Right.
It's always like bunny or possum or like something, other animal, like squirrel or something. But okay, so we can start from the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
Right. I remember you were telling me after the movie finished or whatever. So the beginning of the movie starts with Thanos on this weird spaceship, and he has Thor and Loki hostage, along with, I guess, other Ragnarok boys,
including the Hulk.
The Hulk. And he defeats them, and then the last dying wish of this one guy is to send Hulk back to Earth.
Right.
And you were telling me, why don't they just send Thor back?
Right.
Because he's obviously more essential to the story. Because
I mean, in my opinion,
Hulk literally does nothing the entire film, right?
Exactly.
Well, he does kill that one guy, actually.
Nope.
Yeah, he does. He puts the arm on him.
Bruce Banner does, not the Hulk.
Oh, yeah, that's true, not Hulk. Hulk. It's so strange, too, because he was in the trailer.
Yeah, I know. I think that was a red herring.
It was a misdirect. Yeah, definitely. But so what I've come to I've just come to the conclusion that, like, the smart thing to do would have been to send Thor back, right?
Somebody... Maybe it was you. Maybe it was my wife went to see it with us. Somebody said, but he was in that thing.
That metal thing?
He was being, like, restrained, so I was
I suppose.
Okay,
but one of my friends defended it as, like, oh, well, the Hulk can't breathe in space. So if you wanted to save all the Avengers, this is the most optimal way to do it, basically.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
But in my head, I'm telling myself, like, okay, that's there for the convenience of, like, having all of them together.
Sure.
If you were really fighting for, like, for the sake of humanity, I think you'd just send the strongest guy back. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because Thor then wouldn't have to go through all this rigorous, like, oh, he just happened to land on Peter Quill's ship kind of thing, like,
Oh, Thor, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's the problems that I had with the movie, or the things that I thought were like plot holes, basically.
Right.
I wasn't so sure if I was like maybe just not as informed about like how the Marvel universe works really, because.
Well, that's why before we started, I prefaced the whole thing with this is what we haven't watched.
Yeah, so maybe like I don't know, Thor can't be controlled by that beam. You know, like maybe he can't be shot back or something because he was exiled or something.
I think there is something to what your friend said, because that's right. The Hulk can't breathe in space. It looked like he was the only one that was free to be teleported.
Yeah,
maybe. Like, it's a decision that they made and it's fine, but there were so many of those little decisions throughout the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because later on when like Peter Quill punches Thanos, right when they're gonna get the gauntlet off.
Yeah.
I was just
save for that. This story could have been different. You know what I mean?
Like, okay, and that's another thing that it's like, I could even defend it with saying like, well, Peter Quill is a really emotional person. Mm-hmm. You learn that in Guardians 2.
Sure, but he's not stupid.
He kind of is. He's kind of an idiot. Like,
maybe, but like he's made, I guess, but that's like. I guess he hasn't been pushed that far.
Gamora dies.
Yeah,
like,
that's that. I guess that's what broke him. Is like that was the love of his life, and she died. So maybe that's why he acted that way, because he's never been pushed that far.
Yeah,
he saved her once already.
And
he wasn't able to keep her alive this time. Maybe that was it.
And I don't know if that's just a case of like, hey, maybe we're nitpicking it too much. Like we can't.
It could be.
Like we can't be. It would almost be like if we're trying to explain the sci-fi, or explain the science of a sci-fi movie or something like that. You know, like it's not gonna work. The movie's like, you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
like,
I do know what you're saying.
So I don't know, but that part, and then there's a part at the end where Thanos gets stabbed by a weapon that Thor makes. And he's like, "Oh, you should have gone for the head," and snap, he kills everybody. And so I was like, "Really?" So if he would have gone, like,
so it was a lot of circumstantial. Like if one of those things had gone one way, the whole thing could have been avoided. Any one of those things, because like in my head, like when after that line, I was like, I would have just chopped off his arm. Wouldn't that have been better? Because then it would have just completely come off.
Well, and not just that, but like. Doctor Strange saw like billions of possibilities,
right?
And in none of them did they go for his head,
right?
Like, or I don't know.
That's the other thing too. Like Doctor Strange, okay, so if nobody's watched Doctor Strange, in Doctor Strange, the conclusion of that movie has to do with Strange trapping a very formidable being who eats planets,
right,
in a time loop. Why wasn't Strange able to do something sort of like that with Thanos?
Okay, well, that one I think I can explain. At the end of the movie, he goes up there, and they describe the dark dimension as a place where time doesn't exist.
Right.
So he's basically bringing time
to
that place. Wait, hold on. He creates a loop up there where he's constantly dying or whatever, and Earth is unaffected in a way, you know? So if he were to do that on Earth and create a time loop, there could be like repercussions, because that's what they talk about in Doctor Strange. Like, don't fuck with the space-time continuum. But in that, in that little situation, he's in the dark dimension, so everything else is displaced from what he's doing.
No, I get that, but what I'm saying is,
what's the problem?
Here's the thing, like, he could hold Thanos, because. And this is, I understand this is totally nitpicking. I know people are screaming nerd into their headphones right now or whatever, but he could, in the move, in Doctor Strange, what he does is he eats an apple, he puts it on the floor there, and then he turns back time to make it whole again.
Right.
And he keeps like moving it back and forth so that you can see like the time looping or whatever.
Yeah.
Why didn't he just do that with, like, while they had him held, he could have done like a time thing where he could have held him in place, like freeze him. It's something small.
I don't know the capacity of that.
Yeah,
thing.
I mean,
like,
I'm sure there's some.
Because that was my biggest thing, was like Doctor Strange is a wizard. why can't he just fix everything? Kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, I get it. And
I like that, you know, Doctor Strange had this spell around his amulet, the Infinity Stone, and anybody else who tried to get it was like, there's this spell around it that's quite unbreakable.
Yeah.
And then Thanos just grabs it and just goes,
"So the stone wasn't in there,
huh?
The stone wasn't in there."
Oh, right. That's
right. He says it's a fake or something.
Oh, that's right.
So what I'm assuming from that fight is that maybe he thought it'd be too dangerous to have it in the fight. Even though he has it at all times, it's like, I don't know. Yeah.
It's a little strange because now why not, if he's one of the few individuals in the Marvel universe that can control an Infinity Stone to its full power, because like Vision supposedly controls his power as well. Being,
yeah.
Because he phases and everything, but like for some reason he has a limit to it. But Doctor Strange can control time with his. You know, it just seems odd that why wouldn't you bring it to the fight? You know what I mean?
I don't. Well, he's got a lot of tricks up his sleeve, as you saw in that fight, dude.
He does.
That fight was one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Which one? The one on Titan?
Yeah, where he like multiplies. He makes all these whips.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, Doctor Strange is badass. Why doesn't he just kill him?
Why didn't he trap him in the mirror dimension?
He tried.
He did?
Yeah, but he had the Reality Stone or something because he shatters it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, there's like a part where he does do that.
I was going to say, put him in the sling and then throw him into Dormammu's.
Dude, I love that. That motion of like the sling ring and creating like a portal, I love that.
Which, by the way, as soon as we saw this movie, we were like, you know what, let's watch Doctor Strange. And we went home and we watched that. I was like, dang, Benedict Cumberbatch, just like, he's so good in that movie.
He's awesome, man. I love him.
Like, that Doctor Strange movie is not like a flawless movie by any means, but him in it, doing all this crap, for some reason, I buy the whole thing right out of the gate.
No, yeah, definitely. I love the visuals in Doctor Strange. As far as like plot or story or writing, I won't defend that. I'm purely there.
No, it's a solid movie.
I'm
but
purely there for the visuals. Like, as far as I'm concerned,
it's a solid movie. And I understand kind of the whole premise of the movie, the theme it has, where it's like bending rules and blah blah blah. Because that's what, you know, when Doctor Strange was a doctor, he would always do things according to how he saw them and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
that's kind of how he rolls, and that's what he brings to being now the new master of.
He's a cocky guy, and he thinks he's above the rules in like any situation.
But in Doctor Strange, he humbles himself and understands that the reason to do that is for the greater good. I think in this movie, he's essential for the next movie, even though, like, if anybody, I mean, you know how it ends and Doctor Strange fades away, but before he fades away, or dusts away, I don't know what you want to call it, he says, Tony, this was the only way. This is end game. But, you know, he said that in a way where, like,
there's still a chance.
There's still a chance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is the only way we win. So, if this is the only way that we win, is this considered winning?
See, this is kind of like the problem I have with it is, like, once you introduce Thanos, who can do all of this stuff with the snap of his fingers, it leaves the door open for, like, so if anybody dies, there's no consequence, you know? It's like this rule that, like, oh, we have enough magic power now that everything can be always living, or like all our problems can be solved, so why don't we just do that kind of thing? You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, I mean, the great thing, and I think you mentioned this about this particular movie, is that this movie was a Thanos movie. This was Thanos' journey.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying, like, if you look at it from the perspective of Thanos, you spend a lot of the movie learning about his past. And why he wants to do this, and the fact that he's not just a villain. He's that kind of villain who is a psychopath, first of all, but also thinks that he's doing the right thing the whole time. He doesn't think that this is evil.
You know who he reminds me of is Ozymandias.
Yeah.
That's who I thought of immediately, because Ozymandias had the same premise.
Yeah.
Where if you kill enough of the people, the rest of the world will kind of unite under this threat.
Yeah.
Right? But Thanos' thing was just like, there's not enough resources in the universe, so you got to kill half of them.
Right.
It's like when you know, sometimes there's an overpopulation of fish, and then they're like, you know what, go out there and fish for another 3 months because we need to control the population. It's essentially what Thanos did. But if you think about it, he's trying to do good on a universal scale.
Yeah, it's so weird because it's like you have all that power, and the only solution is really to kill half the population.
Like, it's the simplest in his mind. It's the simplest and most elegant solution because it happens in an instant. Nobody has to suffer because all the people that go away, they just go away. They're not suffering. They just go away.
Can't you just make another planet with the I don't know. See, that's what I'm saying.
I don't know.
This is where it gets
the reality
into,
stone thing. And also when he snaps his fingers, it's supposed to be everything. Half the people in the world get destroyed. But he also had the reality stone. And so why didn't he just make the new reality exist without anybody in a flash? Why did it have to be so, dramatic?
Yeah.
I don't know. But he's done. At the end of the movie, he's done. He's satisfied. The Infinity Gauntlet is gone. It's all broken and shattered.
It's not gone, though, is it?
Well, I don't know, because here's the thing. He snaps his fingers, and then when you see the hand again, it's completely destroyed.
It's
but the stones are still in there.
Yeah.
And then he does use it one last time to disappear, unless that's something he could do before. And then the next scene, he's exactly where he said he'd be, where he's sitting there watching the sunset, but he doesn't have the glove on.
It's funny, too, because that whole last scene is, computer generated. I was almost so, the raw version of this is just, a green screen or something?
Them just looking out. I don't know. I mean, I didn't absolutely love the, I didn't absolutely love the ending. Only because it felt like it dragged on.
Well, hold on. Let's get to there. We have plenty of time to get there.
Let's go then to the different team ups. What did you feel about every team that got... Because essentially it created teams across the universe. What did you think of that?
So after they're on the spaceship, they come back down to the New York sanctuary where Doctor Strange is, right? And you see Doctor Strange and Tony Stark meet for the first time.
Right.
And that was kind of cool because you never see them interact before.
Kind of look alike, don't they?
They do. They do, actually. I feel like if they were, if this was a cartoon, you'd have a hard time telling them apart. You know what I'm saying? And it is cool to see that interaction because they're both really smart, stubborn dudes that always think they're right. So they clash immediately. Yeah. And then you have somebody like Hulk who's just ironically the most level-headed one.
Well, they're all doctors.
Yeah.
Well, two of them are doctors. And the last one's no, two of them are scientists. God damn it. Two of them are scientists. One of them's a doctor.
Yeah, and then
so
Wong
these are all
there.
really high levelly, these are high education level dudes. But yeah, they are acting like children.
And then Wong is there, and that's it, right? It's just them four. So that first fight when they meet the alien dudes for the first time.
Yeah.
That was a cool fight. I love any fight where I get to see Doctor Strange put these magical shields on his hands and just. And this is also nitpick. Okay, bear with me.
Here we go.
Iron Man. The suit just magically comes on him at this point.
Yeah, it's the nanotech technology that so when Doctor Strange meets him, he's telling Pepper about, hey, why did you have that surgery if you wanted to start a family and settle down? He's like, it's just a precaution to keep me alive and blah, blah, blah. So, I don't know, that felt like a little, hurry up and tell this before we go into the thing so that Tony can just have a suit.
Okay, yeah, so what does that mean essentially? That he has a suit wherever he goes now?
Yeah, because the suit is now part of, the way I understood it is the suit is now part of his biology.
Oh, okay. I see.
And they can regenerate and recreate depending on what he needs. He can format them into anything that he wants. That's why he can create blades, he can create a bigger blaster thing.
That makes sense. As far in the Marvel vs. Capcom games, he could always just
materialize,
spawn a shield or a huge proton cannon or something.
Yeah,
I guess that makes sense.
But I didn't like the suit. To be honest.
I was gonna say is that I don't really like how it was it was almost like a Venom symbiote.
Yeah,
the way it crawled onto his skin and his face. I'm more of a fan of when the mask would clamp down, and it looked cool, or even in Spider-Man: Homecoming where it opens up and he's able to step out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever though. That's just my little nitpick.
That's a nitpick. Also, the here's one thing I did like.
What?
Banner shows up.
Yeah.
In the staircase, and it's like, dude, Thanos is coming. We got to get ready. It's like, okay, well, let's call Steve. We'll get our ducks in a row. We'll call Steve, and then it already happens. Like they have no time to prepare because he's here already. You know, kind of thing. And it's not he wasn't there. It was his two henchmen. But the understanding is that the threat is already here. Kind of thing.
Yeah. You know what's funny too is they don't call him Captain America the whole movie.
No, they call him Steve Rogers
because he doesn't have the America thing anymore, right?
Theoretically, his name is the Nomad at this point because there's a storyline in Captain America's history where he doesn't have a country because as soon as he steps back in the United States, he'll be arrested and court-martialed and whatever.
Oh yeah,
and he doesn't exist to any one country, so he's known as the Nomad.
Right. Okay. So that's a good way to lead into the next part, which is so that fight's pretty cool, like that. Then you get to see what everyone's been up to. Everyone's kind of been in hiding ever since Civil War. They
pretty much split up except for Tony, Falcon,
Steve,
War Machine, and Spider-Man are essentially the new Avengers.
Yeah, Steve has his own team of guys. He shows up with Scarlett Johansson. What's her name? Black Widow. He shows up with Black Widow. She has her hair dyed because she's had to go into hiding as well. And they meet up with Vision and Wanda. Scarlet Witch. God, that's confusing. Scarlet Witch, Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlet Witch, Black Widow.
Okay. I wanted to say real fast.
Yes.
I'm going to call her Wanda for the sake of the, Yeah. Wanda and Vision's relationship to me was actually, like, super cool.
You like
somehow. Yeah, because... I don't know, like I guess like every movie has to have some kind of romance in it, right? I was actually surprised that I cared about their relationship in the film, like even up until the last point where he's like, "Oh, you got to kill me," and they're saying all these lovely things to each other. Like she's like, "Oh, I don't want to hurt you," and he's like, "Oh, you could never hurt me," and all these like, it's like because Vision is such a matter of fact kind of guy. You could tell that he's always being genuine. He's always being honest. And Scarlet Witch is like this tortured soul that like she would never need to lie about anything like that. She's being her true self or whatever. It's really tragic to see how that love story ends.
Right.
But it was just cool because it was just so believable throughout the film. Even like in their fights, she's constantly saving his ass. And
which is crazy because Vision seems so weak in this movie.
Yeah, he seemed really powerful in Age of Ultron, didn't he?
He seems so strong in Age of Ultron and in Civil War.
I guess that's how you're supposed to notice that that's how big the threat is, I guess.
I guess, but even Scarlet Witch was able to
yeah, that's true. No,
she was able to hold off Thanos.
Yeah.
Because the only other person that was able to withstand Thanos was Captain America,
Black Widow.
Thor.
Black Widow too. She stabs one of them. Remember with the thing? She steals their weapon.
No, I'm talking about Thanos. Just Thanos, because Captain America catches a punch from Thanos. Scarlet Witch holds him back with a beam, and that's at almost full capacity gauntlet.
Yeah.
And then Thor, beats the gauntlet with his the Stormbringer.
Right. Okay. So after that, I'm not sure if this is in chronological order, but now we're back to Thor. Thor lands on Peter Quill's ship with the other Guardians, and you finally get to see. I wouldn't say it's the best part of the movie, but I love the Guardians. They're such great characters, and I'm glad that they were so in character still, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They didn't feel like they were being controlled by another director or another writer.
They seemed like they were exactly who they were.
Yeah, they still felt like themselves, which is so cool to see. Right down to the jokes, even the way Peter Quill was he was making his voice deeper to mimic Thor, and Rocket Raccoon was still being an asshole and all that stuff.
I liked the part where Gamora and Thor are having a moment where they're families can be tough.
Yeah.
And then Peter has to come. He's like, yeah, I killed my, mom died, had to kill my dad.
He has to do that. Yeah, he has to do that thing. Or like if someone's talking to your girlfriend or something, you have to put your arm around it. You had to do that exact same thing.
Dude.
Yeah. Oh, who are you talking to? Who's this guy?
Who's this guy?
Nice. Yeah. Me too. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
That part was really funny because Thor had absolutely no concern with her, but Peter still felt like super threatened because that's Peter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So that little arc or whatever, that little mission that him, Rocket, and Groot go on, I love that. I don't even know how it worked. Like Thor being with like essentially just CG creatures here.
Yeah, but it totally made sense the way they split up because Thor was like, I know what I need to do to beat Thanos. Okay, I know exactly what to do. I'm gonna go do it. And then Rocket's like, you know what? I'm gonna go check out the big weapons that this guy says is like. It totally makes sense, and Groot's gonna follow him. Like
it does.
It all makes sense.
It does make sense. The fact that Rocket Raccoon's like weapons. I love weapons. Let's go. And Groot is like, whatever. Like
yeah, I'm just gonna go. But then they take off to Titan to go like try and what did they?
No, they don't go to. They don't go to Titan. They go to that place where the Peter Dinklage is forging weapons.
No, that's Thanos' group. I'm talking about Peter, Quill, Star-Lord. Where do they head off to?
Okay. I thought we were still talking about.
Sorry. Okay, so
Thor, Groot, and Rocket Raccoon go to this essentially like an armory or a what are they
an
called?
armory.
Yeah,
it's where they make weapons. Yeah, and dude, that whole sequence where they start up the forge. It's a great sequence.
It was cool. I really liked it. Yeah, it was it was cool because. Not just because it was like a powerful scene to see him getting burned and all that stuff, and to finally see Thor actually do something, but it was just like, man, every character really plays an essential role.
Yeah.
In this film, and they had enough time to do that. I found it like ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons that I love the movie, but still have a lot of problems with it. Is because the movie it's 2.5 hours. And I didn't really feel the time.
I didn't either.
Because I felt like there was so much that they had to do, but they were trying to give everything its equal time. Not everything did get its equal time, unfortunately, but I think what they could get away with in 2.5 hours was enough where I was like, I'm in. Dude, I'm in on this.
Even Groot has his own little moment where like he picks up the axe and like chops his hand. That was so cool.
To give it the handle?
I love that, yeah. That was so great.
You know, I was surprised. I didn't know Peter Dinklage was in this movie. And then he just shows up.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't think, oh, look, it's the guy from Game of Thrones. Like, he totally fit into the world. Like, as a forge, like, as a dwarf forge.
Yeah.
Dude, I was like, this makes sense.
It's so weird, too, because it's like they made him big.
Yeah, well, because he would have to craft these weapons. Like, it makes sense that he's... I don't know if it's... I'm sure it's somewhere in the comic books, but, like... It's so cool because the forge for him, because he's a giant, because he's that big, is a small dying star. That's how he starts his forge.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is fucking brilliant. I love this. Everything about this makes sense logically.
It was cool because it's the kind of thing where like that those are the things that stories are made of. Like, oh, Thor like restarts the thing by himself, gets shot by a star. And then, you know, this woodland creature uses his arm to create the hilt of this, like, axe. Like, it just sounds like something out of, like, Greek mythology or something, you know? Which is another reason why I was like, man, that's so fucking cool.
And by the way, like, when Thor gets his hammer back and he's able to use it for the first time in a long time...
It's an axe, yeah.
Well, his new weapon, I should say.
Right.
Fucking brilliant. Yeah. I love seeing Thor use his lightning.
Yes. I remember Avengers 1, I was like, why wasn't this guy doing this in his own movie? Why was he dicking around with Natalie Portman and, like...
Because, like, they had to take it away from him.
Yeah, I know, I get it. He's a god, and, you know... It's just... He's so cool, dude.
He's such a cool character.
The parts where he gets to fly around and, like, use the axe, it's like, oh, this is awesome. I love this. In that particular scene, I would have liked to see Hulk come out. But, you know, whatever. I mean, I don't know if they're saving it for the next movie or what the hell is going on there.
Maybe. Maybe.
But so after that, they do get to the Titan.
Yeah, Peter Quill's crew, which is Peter, Gamora. Who else is in it? Peter, Gamora.
Is Gamora on Titan?
No. You were missing an essential part because they go to the Collector first. because they think that the Reality Stone is there with the Collector.
Right, and then Gamora
But
gets
it's
kidnapped.
it's Drax and the Mantis lady.
Yeah.
Right. So the four of them go there, and like they're seeing Thanos take on this one dude. Like, and he's like, "I need the Reality Stone. Give me the Reality Stone." And after, like, you find out that it's like a ruse that he's doing.
Because he already got the Reality Stone. And he changed it.
His plan was just to capture Gamora because she knows where the Soul Stone is. Mm-hmm. So after that, then they go to Titan. You know.
And so it's Iron Man, it's Doctor Strange, Spider-Man.
Yeah, they all land on Titan.
And the rest of Peter Quill's crew, which is, I think, just Drax and Mantis, whatever her name is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that makes also for a really cool fight scene where they all get to, like, they all essentially get to throw a punch at Thanos. Mm-hmm. I was surprised that wasn't, like, the end of the movie, basically. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I thought that would be like, oh... Like, here's Thanos, we're all going to grab one limb or something, and let's all attack him.
Yeah.
And that's actually not what happens. That's where, like, they fail, essentially, and they could have, I love, I was just going to say, I love the parts where Doctor Strange is sling ringing everyone through.
So they like, punch him in the face.
Yeah, Spider-Man's kicking him, and Peter's, like, dropping a bomb on him, he flips him off, and all this cool stuff. Just really great visuals in that fight all over overall.
And it feels like everybody's being utilized to their full potential. Because, like, as cool as Spider-Man is, like, it was shown that he was just way out of his league. You know what I mean? Like, I like the part where he's holding everybody. He's like, I'm sorry, I don't know everybody's names. And he's just, like, trying to keep everybody from floating out in space.
That's what I mean by, like, everyone had a part to do. It's like, you think Spider-Man's not going to do shit against Thanos. It's like, he's there saving people, or, like... What is Peter Quill gonna do? What's Star-Lord gonna do? And he's got these little traps that like actually help out. They're like holding Thanos' legs, or like he drops a bomb on his back and distracts him for a bit. It's like, wow, all right, cool. They found a spot for everyone,
Yeah, and then so that by the way, that fight, the way it ends and the way it's fought, I like the ending to it. Like, the power that the reality, like, his gauntlet had shown with 3 stones in it. Where he, like, essentially breaks up a moon and throws it at...
Oh, yeah.
At Tony.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit. Like, in this age of CG where you could do anything with CG, sometimes the weight of something isn't really translated through visuals because you're like, it's just CG.
Yeah.
But when you really care about a character that's essentially CG... Because, Tony in his suit is a CG suit, right? But once you see that and you're like, oh, no, like, you're doing something right.
Yeah. I mean, it's... Yeah, I understand it's a lot of CG, but I think I said this before to you. It's like, there are parts of it that are practical, and when they use CG to polish things up, you can't really tell the difference. Like, you tend to think, like, oh, it's all CG, but I'm sure there has to be a certain part of Tony Stark's suit that was practical.
Of course. Like, because his motions are too, like, natural.
Yeah. Like, apparently Black Panther's suit is all practical. But, like, just because you put little lights on it, people are going to think, like, oh, he's all CG. you know what I'm saying?
No,
like,
yeah. Going away from that and going to more of a Thanos story, when Thanos goes to go search for the Soul Stone with Gamora, and then you, like, there was a surprise there where the Red Skull was there at the Soul Stone. I thought that was such a curveball, but it totally fit. It's been how many movies since we've seen the Red Skull, and all of a sudden he appears?
No, yeah, it's true.
Like, it was so fucking cool because he translates the riddle to everybody else because he was like, why are you here? He's like, I'm the one that leads people to the Soul Stone. I'm the one that leads people to a treasure I could never collect.
Right.
Because the Soul Stone requires a sacrifice of the most precious thing to you. Yeah. And the Red Skull doesn't have anything that he cares about. Yeah.
Maybe skin, but that's about it. He doesn't have any of that.
Nah, he took it off. Remember, he's like, nah, this is me. Now I'm Red Skull.
What I was going to say, though, this is a huge nitpick. Please ignore this. They teleport to the bottom of the mountain. Why not just teleport to the top?
Because they didn't really know where it was.
Okay, sure.
Because, like...
This is one of those things where it's like, he has all this power, I don't think he's using it, No, okay, sorry. That is definitely a nitpick. I want that stricken from the record, actually. Just delete that.
That part was fun. It definitely humanized Thanos when you found out he had to throw Gamora over.
I was actually like, holy shit. He's gonna throw her off the mountain, like,
Yeah.
because you hear people are gonna die in this film. I was like, Tony Stark. Tony Stark's gonna die.
I think everybody thought that.
And it turns out like when he gets stabbed, it's like he just
heals
heals himself, or like he's like essentially machine now or something. But
I leaned over to my wife and was like, that sword is made of the same thing that he's protecting himself with, but so I'm guessing he's just gonna use it to heal himself, which he essentially did.
Yeah, he does something earlier in the film. Remember when they're we actually skipped that part where they're on the giant donut.
Oh yeah.
Rescuing Doctor Strange.
Right.
He seals up like metal with like little like machines or something.
Yeah,
I guess
nanobots.
Yeah, so I guess what he can do is just heal metal.
Well, like I said, he can create things as long as his mind can bring them up. So like, remember, he shoots a little Iron Man device into Thanos' hand, so he can't close his hand.
Yeah,
because that's how he activates all his powers. He like closes his hand. So he just made that and threw it at him, and then he made a blade to try and cut him and stuff.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, one of my coworkers was telling me that like in the comic books, the suit that he gives Spider-Man,
right,
comes on because of his thoughts. Like it's thought activated.
Right.
So if he thinks about having the suit on, it comes on.
Right.
And he said like, oh yeah, he could even say like, I want to be classic Spider-Man. Boom, the suit changes to classic Spider.
Right.
So I guess that's just how advanced Tony Stark's like technology is.
Right.
Like
well, plus it's in and out. Like Tony and Spider-Man have been using that suit for a while. Like the suit that Peter gets in this movie is more akin to the one he had in Civil War, the comic book version.
Yeah.
Because in the comic book version, he has like spider legs that come out of his back.
I love that, by the way. There's a part where they first debut or whatever, and he grabs onto this. I was like, oh my god, that looks so cool, dude.
Yeah, it's a natural progression for his suit. I just, it sucks that it didn't get showcased a little more, because there's some other stuffs in that suit from Civil War that were really cool.
Hey, okay, correct me if I'm wrong. What the suit at the end of Spider-Man: Homecoming is not this one?
No,
it's a different one.
No, the suit the suit at the end of Homecoming is the one he used in the very beginning when Stark gave him that new suit that he used from Civil War. Is the same one he has at the end of the movie because they give it back to him.
It's not. It looks different. Remember at the end, there's like a case open and he's like, "You can be an Avenger now." And he's like, "Nah, I want to be Spider-Man."
Yeah, that's... Oh, are you saying if that's the new suit?
Yeah, is that the same suit that's in this movie?
You know, I'd have to go back and look at it.
Yeah.
But I think it's a different suit, because I think they might have upgraded it.
Okay.
But yeah, like he had it in storage, so it could be.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, now we're back to, I think, Wakanda?
Yeah.
Right? Where Steve Rogers is, and... Finally, Bucky's back. He gets his new arm that looks all crazy. And
I might be wrong, but I think he's in Black Panther.
Bucky?
Yeah,
it would make sense. But so they're ready for the war. They're preparing to have this crazy attack of the clones.
And they're attacking Wakanda because that's where Vision is at this point, and they need that stone.
Right, Vision needs to get the stone out of his forehead.
Yeah,
whatnot. I personally. Not a huge fan of Steve Rogers' like little shields that he has on his arms.
I didn't like him either.
I don't know if that was like some kind of metaphor of like, fuck Captain America, I'm doing something completely different. This is my own thing.
Right.
But I would have loved to see him have a shield.
I would have too.
Yeah, Black Panther even says like,
give this man a shield.
Get this man a shield, and I'm like, yeah, let's see that shield. And he comes out with 2 shields, not just one. And
yeah, it's not great.
I was even thinking like, oh, maybe it's a God of War kind of thing where like it's on his wrist, but it like slings out and becomes like a circle.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, but it does not. It's just like 2 little V's on his, and then he could stab people with them and everything.
Yeah,
the Wakanda scene was great because it was such a huge fight, and in my head I was like, this is like. I was like, Star Wars, take note. This is how you do a big fight where people care about the people who are actually fighting.
No, yeah, it's true.
You know what I mean?
And even, were you going to talk about War Machine?
Yeah, I was going to talk about, like, War Machine, all these different people that are, like, they're so, like, they're small characters, but you still care if they're getting, like, manhandled or taken down or anything, because, like, this war makes you care about each individual character, no matter how small they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that was the point of the movie, or like I think the goal of the movie was to make every character likable enough so that the deaths actually have an impact on them.
Speaking of deaths, the two generals or whatever that are attacking Wakanda, the way they die, so great.
Oh yeah,
so great. Like I didn't even the way that Bruce Banner got rid of the one big dude. Brilliant.
It was.
I loved it.
You know what is cool about that is that he used his brains, not his brawn. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't really get to see Bruce be Bruce. You get to see him be Hulk all the time, smashy things. And this one was like, even when he clamps the arm on him, the guy's like confused, like, whoa, what's going on? What are you doing? And then he's like, bye. And he shoots him into the force field, and he gets disintegrated. Yeah, which is really cool.
And then Vision takes out the other guy when you don't suspect it. Vision stabs that guy in the chest, and I'm like, whoa!
I know, and that's one of the things that made me like Vision a lot was, so they're saying like, oh, why don't we just give what was it? Just rip the stone out of Vision, and we'll destroy it. Look at that, and that's it. We don't have to give it to Thanos. And Captain America says, "Oh, we don't trade lives.
Yeah.
That's how I work. I save every life that I can." And there's a part where Vision saves Captain America by stabbing that guy in the thing, and Cap's like, "Oh man, I told you to leave," and he's like, "We don't trade lives, Cap." Like I was just like, "Oh, what a great dude!"
Yeah, I know, right?
What a nice fucking dude. Listen to this guy.
It shows that he's learning. Like that's the one thing about Vision is. His motif is he's always learning, no matter what.
You said Ozymandias earlier, and it's like Vision is almost like the Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah,
where he's just like he's all knowledge.
Well, at least in other movies, he seemed like Ozymandias because he could phase. He was like he was ridiculously overpowered. He held Thor's hammer. Remember, he was just like he seemed like Marvel's version of Superman.
Well, yeah, you were saying like Thanos is like Ozymandias, so if anything, Vision is like Dr. Manhattan, where like he knows a lot of things, but compassion is one thing that's still kind of a mystery to him.
Which is why he's still kind of learning these things.
Yeah, and that's they always say compassion is what separates us from the animals. It's like it's like being selfless is something that you're not taught in nature. Animals fight for themselves. Survival of the fittest, all that.
So that essentially brings us to the end of the movie where it all kind of takes place. Thanos snaps his fingers, and then like reality itself changes. Overall, this thing with Marvel, man, like I understand why it takes so long and why so many people are involved because little things that have to be continuous throughout the entire series. Somebody has to keep track of all that crap. Like, it's a full-time job just to do that. Like, after the movie, I remember telling you...
I would say many people's jobs, yeah.
Yeah, after the movie, I was telling you about this left arm problem with Tony Stark that's been apparent throughout the entire movie. So, I got it wrong in the... If you guys have been watching the God of War playthroughs, I said he got hit by an airplane. And it's not. He was flying through... it's the first time he goes out as Iron Man. He gets hit by a missile. Oh, okay. But it hits him in the left shoulder. And I went through and went back and looked at all the different times that he's like, my left arm hurts or whatever. Like, in Civil War, he goes, my left arm's numb. Is that normal? Blah, blah, blah. And it's a joke, but at the same time, like, going into Spider-Man Homecoming, when he goes to talk to Peter, he's holding his left arm. And he's kind of nursing it. And then when he's reprimanding Peter from like India, his left arm shakes when he's holding his drink and everything. Like, and then even in Civil War when he has his arm in a sling and he takes it out. Even after that, he's holding his hand. He's like, so throughout the entire series, that injury of being hit by a missile goes all the way until the end of this one because at the end of this one, he's holding his arm.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. The attention to detail is there because it's essential, basically. Like. Things wouldn't make sense if it wasn't.
I mean that left arm thing, you just if that wasn't included, I mean. Okay, well maybe not that. You know what I mean?
But my example was Doctor Strange. There's a scene where he's talking to Thanos and he has his spell things up. His hands are shaking.
Yeah.
Because he's never fixed his hands. That's always been like, at the end of Doctor Strange, he still has that problem, and even when he hands over the gem.
His hands are shaking.
His hands have scars on them the scars from the pins that they put into his hands. And I'm not sure if I believe that later on he gets the ability to just have magic over them that keeps them steady or something.
Well,
because anytime I've seen him, he always has like glowing hands.
Yeah, but the lesson at the end of Doctor Strange is that the supreme sorcerer. She's like, it's the ancient one. She's like, it's the one thing I could never teach you, but you need to learn. And he's like, it's not about you. It's about everything else. So the shaking hands are an example of, you don't need to. It's not about your hands anymore. It's not about that. It's about protecting the world at this point. So he leaves his hands in that state, which I think is like, you're right. It's like a nice little detail that goes into the rest of the movie that you don't notice, but on repeated viewings, you're like, wow, that much attention to detail. They didn't have to do that.
Right.
You know, he could have been like, oh, I steadied my hands now with magic. Just like that guy who was paralyzed, but now he can walk.
Yeah, exactly. That's
But he doesn't do it, because he's like, there's more important things to do.
I think they did a really good job. It's 10 years in the making, right?
Right.
It took them fucking long enough. Back when we first saw Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson pop up after the credits and say, "Oh, I'm here to talk to you about the Avengers." Remember that?
Yeah,
that was
the Avengers Initiative.
You're gonna talk about the post credits.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about the post credits sequence because a lot of people left like immediately after. I was like, totally heard that there was stay until the end credits. And essentially, everybody already knows that little symbol at the end where Nick Fury is paging somebody. Because, by the way, that thing looks like a pager.
It looks like a pager with some kind of weird, like...
Yeah, and you know what
light on it.
You know what that means to me?
What?
Is that... So the symbol that appears on it is Miss Marvel.
Right.
Or, sorry, Captain Marvel. And if you haven't heard, Captain Marvel was played by a woman in this rendition, but Captain Marvel has been a man, a woman, I think a dog at one point, and whatever.
Right.
But the fact that it looks like a beeper,
Uh-huh.
to me, says that he met Captain Marvel, like, back when he was young.
Oh, okay.
And he's had this thing in his...
In the 90s. He was a 90s kid.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, like, he's had this thing forever, and he's like, when you need me, call me, kind of thing. So he has this little beeper. So whatever the you know, I think they're going to do a Spider-Man thing in this one where it's like the next Avengers is going to have Captain Marvel in it, and then she's going to have her own movie afterwards.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean? Like Spider-Man was in Civil War, and then he had Homecoming.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's great for me.
Yeah,
I really liked the way they did that.
I was honestly just like, okay, you finished this one. I'm probably not going to give a shit about anything else you put out until the next Avengers movie. If I'm being quite honest, I know Ant-Man is coming out in July.
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah, which I was a bit lukewarm on the first Ant-Man. I thought the idea was cool, but it was an okay movie. I thought.
I can't wait. I really liked Ant-Man.
Yeah, I remember you really liked that movie.
It's because none of the other movies are like Ant-Man.
All I was gonna say was like people were saying like you have to stay till the end, and I was like, I already know Captain Marvel's coming out. Do I really need to see a fucking 5-second clip of him pressing go on a beeper or something like?
Yeah, but it puts you in the right state of mind because remember right after when the movie ended, I told you know what the one missing scene of this whole movie is? Is like Thanos slapped his fingers, but all you saw was half of the heroes go away.
Yeah.
You know, it was very like selective about what you saw. But I was like, where's the thousands of cities where people have disappeared all of a sudden? And then that's what the post-credit sequence was. Thousands of people disappearing all at once.
Yeah.
Cars crashes, planes crashing, all because people are just missing now. They just faded away.
So we're to assume that she's still there.
Who? Captain Marvel?
Yeah,
well, Captain
like
Marvel,
he didn't send that text and then she got it and then she turned to dust or something.
Captain Marvel supposedly exists outside of time and space.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah, she's the way I remember is Captain Marvel exists outside of all time and space, so she or he can travel however he wants throughout the galaxy.
Oh, is it like Silver Surfer or like
kind of, yeah.
Galactus
so he doesn't
kind of stuff?
He doesn't he doesn't like adhere to the same rules as everybody. You know what I mean? Like Thor, I don't know if the reality thing affects, like, when he snaps his finger, I don't know if that affects Thor, because Thor is a god, so he's not necessarily, I don't know. You know, it's like Thor has weird... circumstance. Like, he doesn't have to breathe air,
but
he eats and drinks.
Yeah, I don't even know.
I don't know how that works.
Does he need to eat? Does he need a drink? Who knows?
I don't know. And like, I don't know. It's just so weird. So I don't know if that affects the gods or whatever. I know gods can kill gods, but I don't know if Thanos could actually kill Loki.
Well, I hope Thor keeps that weapon.
Me too.
I don't know if that's permanent or whatnot, but like I said, I loved how it was. I love the conception of that weapon. I love how it was made and all that.
I didn't
stuff.
love the weapon, but
the way it looked was a little bit jank, especially because it's like Groot's arm. But the story behind it is definitely what I like.
Yeah, I'll accept it just because the way it was built.
That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Is you look at it and there's obviously a story there. It's not a normal weapon. There's fucking wood on it for one thing, and it's
Yeah.
But yeah, so I thought it was pretty good. Maybe we should watch it again. I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, I definitely loved it.
See if it holds up.
I think it will, because like my wife was like, "What about this part? What about this part?" I was like, "Well, it's gonna take a little while to explain, so we're just gonna buy it when it comes out, and we'll run through it, point by point, and all that kind of stuff."
We'll see if it.
Because she was like, "Where's he been? Oh wait, where's the one guy with the bow and arrow? Or what's theirs?" And like,
I wonder if they actually like just did that so that they could focus more on the heroes that people cared about.
Well,
no offense to Hawkeye or anything like that.
Well, they mentioned Ant-Man and Hawkeye.
Yeah.
But Ant-Man is going to have his own story. Like, the way I understand it is that, we were talking about this afterwards, Ant-Man is dismissed in the way that he says, they took a plea bargain with the United States because they're not really mutants. They're doing just superheroes.
They're doing some kind of parallel mission, right?
Yeah, because supposedly they have some sort of mission that coincides and affects Part 2 of the Avengers Infinity War. Okay. So whatever they are doing might actually result in, now we can undo this thing that happened. Okay. So I'm really excited to see it because I loved Ant-Man.
I'm really curious to see now what X-Men were doing in the comics while this was going on. You know what I'm saying? Like,
in Infinity War, in the other one, they do play a part in it.
I would assume so because.
Yeah. But by the way, the snap that Thanos does, that's in the comics.
Well, I would assume so. Yeah, it's not something. Doesn't seem like something they would just make up. Something very cliche like that. But yeah. I really recommend it. If you've heard of this podcast already, you've probably watched it, I assume, unless you just wanted to hear a bunch of spoilers, right? But yeah, so we'll see if all these deaths actually matter once the next one comes out.
That's a good question.
The only one I really cared about was Spider-Man, because I was very sad. He's like a little boy. I didn't want to see him go, but there he goes.
The way he cries to Tony, it makes me like, you're always at one point you forget that he's a kid, and then he says something like that to bring you back to be like, dude, this kid's it's a kid.
And people were saying that he knew it was happening because he has spider sense.
Yeah,
and everybody else was just like, oh shit, here I go.
But what did that give him? Like, I like that the detail is. I like that the detail is there because he's like, oh, spider sense is tingling. And so is the mantis.
Because it took longer for him to go away. Yeah. Like, he got to hold Tony Stark for a second before he was like, I don't want to go, and then he went away. Yeah. As opposed to, like, Peter Quill, who was just like, shit.
That's Peter.
Yeah.
That's Peter. I like how Drax just kind of faded away. It was just like...
Here we go.
Here we go.
I think it's hilarious that Vision's dead body got just stayed.
Well, there was no life there.
Yeah, I suppose so, but
You know what's funny is I don't even think it would have affected him.
Why?
Because he's a machine.
Yeah, I guess that's true, huh? I don't know.
I don't think it would have faded because it'd be like the stone gave him life, or what is it? A personality.
Like
I don't know what it gave him.
Or a soul?
Consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he would have faded away. But he's dead anyway.
Yeah.
So there's that.
It's so strange too because it's like all these movies are coming out after Infinity War 2, so they're gonna come back, right? Like Guardians 3 has already been slated, and
well, yeah,
they're making another Spider-Man, so he's got to come back. It's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, but you got to wait for the next Avengers movie to write everything. But like maybe these are taking place before or after Infinity. Well, they'll probably after.
I want to ask you a serious question before we end the podcast. All right.
Okay, because I think we're out of time.
Yeah, this is a serious question.
Okay.
How many more Stan Lee cameos can we expect? Like,
oh my god.
Do you want them to just be over, or
no? I don't.
No,
because they add this connection throughout all the movies because, every entity, there's a new version of Stan Lee. Like, that's what bridges all these, so that they all exist in the same.
That's the only
universe.
thing that bridges these, Ernie.
No, like every single piece, like every single movie has a Stan Lee thing.
He's even in Big Hero 6.
He's in everything. Yeah. And you know what's sad is that I wouldn't be surprised if this last year we have Stan Lee. Mm-hmm. So the guy's
okay,
always.
I guess so. You're gonna make me sound like a dick now. Okay,
no,
sure.
No. I mean, if he gets too old and he can't do it, he can't do it. It's not anything bad, but it's like, as long as we can. The guy's always been so positive. Mm-hmm. And so, like, hey, true believers kind of thing. It's like it's fun to see him in there. It's like a Where's Waldo in every single movie.
Yeah.
And the cameos are always like 2 seconds.
The one in Spider-Man: Homecoming in particular made me not like it. That's why I brought it up.
Which one?
He's shouting outside of a building. He's shouting out his window.
Oh yeah.
And the scene goes on for just too long. It just gets annoying. Like, and
the one in this one where he's driving the bus, I thought was fun.
No, that was fun. Yeah, that was like 2 seconds of like, shut the fuck up, I'm driving a bus, and that's it.
You didn't like the one from Avengers where he's just like he tries to outdrink Thor or something? Remember, he's an old war hero. These
are kind of where I'm like, I fucking get it. Is what I'm yelling at the screen. Like Spider-Man 1, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 1.
Yeah. He
grabs somebody and saves them from something falling. I was like, okay, cool, whatever. That's fine.
Whatever.
But I don't know. Like, yeah, sure, keep him in the movie. What the fuck do I care? It's just a little thing that's just kind of like. It's like the Wilhelm screen, Like, do we need that? It's a tradition. Do we need that in every single fucking movie?
At this point, it's a tradition.
It's in every Star Wars movie.
Yeah, it's in a lot of action movies. That's why you can recognize it. But to be honest, if it goes away, If it's not in a movie, I'm like, But if it is, I'm like, hey, look, it's the Wilhelm screen. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about Stan Lee. Is like, hey, look, there's Stan Lee.
Yeah.
No,
I get you. Okay. That's pretty much it. I hate to end it on what might be a sour note.
A whim.
Yeah. This is a bittersweet ending to the podcast, sort of like the movie.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Now Steven's fading away.
Yeah. Who knows if we'll be back next week? Maybe we faded away. Spoilers. We will be here next week. So.
Yeah, we will be. We got nothing better to do.
Yeah. That does it for this week, guys. See you next week.
See you next week, guys.